So, with all the hype around bioconverter based builds, whether it's a shotgun, vanguard, or sniper rifle infiltrator, I wanted to do some proof of concept testing with a biotic casting build to see how well it scaled at high levels on insanity. And what I found was that um, a biotic build can also kill an architect in about 4 minutes or so on insanity. So, even though the guns are really impressive, Vanguard with charge is really impressive, you can still do a lot of damage in a short amount of time with medium to long range casting. The cornerstones of this build are spammable lance as your primary damage and detonator, and then singularity as your long range primer, and then annihilation as your short range primer. Or if you're fighting just lots of mobs in wide open areas, you can go shockwave instead as another primer. I'm using the vanguard profile because of its passive bonuses, biotic recharge speed, power shield cost reduction, max shields, and then in emergencies you can restore shields for more lance spam by using melee attacks. Adept will work also. Explorer is also pretty good, but I prefer Vanguard's bonuses for the synergies with how this build works. For skills, to hit rank 6 in Adept, you pretty much put just everything in everything, but the main skills, Lance, focusing on damage. I went with the headshot weak point bonus because it has just more general applicability compared to anti-shield. And then the main thing is rank 6 shield powered. So this cost is really punitive when you first get it. In the early to mid game where insanity is hardest, you'll find yourself, heading into cover a lot, waiting for your shields to come back. But there are lots of different passive and active ways to get shields back as you keep on getting levels and get more research points that really make this build come together. But yeah, in the beginning it's pretty tough. You'll be using pull instead of singularity in the very beginning of the game as a primer. Barrier is really important as a passive skill, especially for a rank 6 active barrier. It's another source of active shield regeneration. So you're not just sitting behind cover all the time, you're actually encouraged to try to get kills. Biotic alacrity, recuperative barrier, all really good passive bonuses. For offensive biotics, you want amplitude, exploitation, instead of detonation, because exploitation is actually going to apply more often. Not every single lance is going to cause a combo and detonate. And then biotic expert, obviously. For singularity, I went with duration instead of radius, recharge speed, and then exploding singularity. But this build is really flexible. You can kind of do whatever you want within the constraints of the main concepts, which is spamming lance, having a way to prime for lance, and then being able to restore shields so that you can lance more. For annihilation, recharge penalty, damage attractor, and then I went with vortex to have kind of a passive CC against breachers and dogs. You can go with draining field to have another source of shield restoration if you like. And then filling out the rest of the skills, shockwave, radius, to prime more enemies instead of damage. I'm not really going to use shockwave as a source of primary damage. Recharge speed to be able to use it more often, and then lifting shockwave to cause it to prime. The rest of the skills you can spec into however you like for the most part. Containment, I went with duration, shield detonation, manifold duration. But again, outside of these core abilities of lance, singularity, and barrier, you can pretty much do whatever you want. Same goes for combat. You're pretty much putting passives to increase your gunplay when you don't have shields, and to unlock Vanguard profile. Combat fitness is really helpful for health shields, regeneration, heavy lifting in the trenches, so that when you are in cover, it doesn't take quite as long to get shields back. This build synergizes and relies on shield oscillator, which is a chest augmentation that restores shields when you get kills, and the power booster in your weapon, which increases your damage when you have a full clip. So it favors weapons that have low clip size, heavy damage, so that when you can't lance, you have an extremely powerful, effective weapon. So I use shotguns or sniper rifles, but I prefer the dhan and Ishire for these purposes. You can spec them however you like, as long as you're hitting the 126 points invest in skills to get Vanguard Profile 6. For squad mates, Cora is invaluable for shield boost. It's the best skill in the game. At rank 6 you get regeneration for health, but it's really the filling in the gaps with shield restoration for extended periods of time really helps. She'll actually come and find you to use shield boost on you, so that's a nice little function of the AI. For your second squad mate, you can use whoever you like. Drac has the most survivability, but I prefer Vetra because of her rank 6 Turian Smuggler passive, which boosts your damage and everyone else's whenever she's on target, which is really helpful for bosses. That's where it becomes noticeable. But it adds up across regular mobs also. For the loadout, it's pretty much just biotic damage wherever you can get it. So you want an ultra rare melee weapon for as many augmentations as you can fit, augments. Primary weapon, I prefer the dhan for this build because it covers the gaps of having a short range weapon. Again, the power booster is really important, as just a huge chunk of extra damage whenever the clip is full. Again, works really well with low clip size, high damage weapons. For a second weapon, the Hornet's really nice because it's a good all-around medium long range weapon, just in case. You'll probably use your guns a lot more often in the first 10 levels than you will in the next 60 levels, so keep that in mind. For armor, it's the N7 set all around for the biotic damage boosts. For the chest armor, you again really want that shield oscillator as an active way to restore shields by killing mobs. Even on bosses, there'll pretty much always be adds that you can kill to get your shields back. For the fusion mod, you can use adrenaline. In this save file I don't have it, so I use rapid deployment for shorter singularity recharge time. And then the arms, I put in an aerial stabilizer for extra damage when hovering. So again, the focus on this build is stacking those huge chunks of bonus damage wherever you can get it to allow your biotic powers to scale almost as well as guns do. It's not quite as fancy looking as charging right into an architect and unloading infinite dhan shots with bioconverter, but for those of you who prefer more long range caster type builds, it still works really well at level 71. So if you have any questions, feel free to throw in a comment.